The stone was cold against her cheek before she even realized she'd fallen. Cold, unforgiving, ancient, like the eyes that had watched her stumble through accusations for the past 3 hours without once offering mercy. The Alpha Court's floor had drunk the blood of traitors for centuries. Now it waited for hers. Somewhere above her collapsing body, her stepsister's voice floated like poisoned honey. She's always been dramatic. Even now, she performs. Laughter. Cruel, scattered, damning. But then, heat. Massive hands slid beneath her before the darkness could take her completely, lifting her as though she weighed nothing, cradling her against a chest that radiated power so ancient it made her wolf whimper in recognition even through her human blood. The scent hit her broken senses, pine, steel, storm before lightning, and something inside her that had been screaming for hours finally went quiet. The bond snapped into place like a bone setting. Mate. No. Impossible. She was human. Broken. Accused. She had no right to. Who did this? The voice that spoke above her head didn't ask. It commanded. The Alpha King's words cut through the chamber with the force of an execution order, and every wolf in the room felt their throats close in instinctive submission. Even through her blurred vision, she saw her stepsister's perfect face drain of color. Before we continue, quick question, where in the world are you watching from? Drop your country or city in the comments. I love seeing where my pack is scattered across the globe. And please do me a favor and hit that subscribe button right now. You're about to go on a journey with a girl who's been betrayed by everyone she loved, and an Alpha King who's about to burn the whole world down to protect her. Trust me, you don't want to miss a single moment of what's coming. Alright, let's dive in. Because this trial. It was never about truth. It was about sacrifice. The trial had started at dawn. By noon, Ashley Halloway could no longer feel her legs. She stood in the center of the circular chamber, the Alpha Court of the Northern Territories, where pack law had been written in blood and enforced with fangs for over 1,000 years. 300 wolves surrounded her in tiered stone seats, their eyes glowing faintly in the torchlight, their judgment already carved into their expressions before a single word of testimony had been spoken. She was human. That was her first crime. Her second was being born into a family that wished she hadn't been. Let the record show, Elder Varek's voice boomed from the high seat, his white beard trembling with manufactured authority, that Ashley Halloway stands accused of conspiracy to poison the Halloway bloodline, theft of sacred pack artifacts, and deliberate harm brought upon her sister, Emily Halloway, daughter of Alpha Corwin Halloway. Sister. The word was a knife between her ribs. Stepsister, Ashley wanted to scream. She's my stepsister, and every mark on my body came from her hands or the hands she paid to hurt me. But her voice had been taken from her 3 hours ago, when the first witness had stood and lied through their teeth. I saw her slip something into Lady Emily's tea, the Omega kitchen maid had whispered, tears streaming down her face. Convincing. Heartbreaking. Completely false. Ashley had been locked in the cellar that night. She knew because the chains had left scars on her wrists that she'd hidden beneath the long sleeves of her trial dress, the only dress she owned that wasn't torn or stained with her own blood. But no one asked to see her wrists. No one asked her anything. They just kept talking. Accusing. Condemning. And through it all, Emily sat in the place of honor beside their father, her golden hair braided with moonflowers, her blue eyes wide and glistening with perfectly timed tears. She looked like every story's heroine. Beautiful, fragile, beloved. Ashley looked like the villain they needed her to be. The accused will now hear testimony from the primary witness, Elder Varek continued, his gaze sliding past Ashley as though she were already a ghost. Lady Emily Halloway, please approach. The chamber fell silent. Emily rose with the grace of someone who'd rehearsed this moment in the mirror 100 times. Her white dress seemed to glow as she descended the steps, each movement calculated to draw sympathy, to appear smaller, more vulnerable than the girl who had once held Ashley's head underwater in the bath until she'd stopped struggling. When Emily reached the center of the chamber, she turned to face Ashley. And smiled. It was a tiny thing. A ghost of an expression that no one else would catch. But Ashley saw it. Felt it. That smile said, "I've won. I've always been winning. And you were too weak to stop me." "My sister," Emily began, her voice breaking beautifully on the word, "has always hated me. Since our parents' mating bond formed and my father brought me into the pack, Ashley has looked at me with nothing but resentment. I tried to love her. Goddess knows I tried. But she," Emily's voice caught, and she pressed a trembling hand to her mouth. The wolves in the gallery leaned forward, hanging on her every breath. "She couldn't bear that I had what she never would. The wolf. The bond. The belonging. The abuse," Ashley thought bitterly. "You forgot to mention the locked rooms and the silver-laced whips you paid the guards to use when father was away. 3 months ago," Emily continued, "I began to feel ill. Weak. My wolf grew distant. I went to the healers, and they found poison in my blood. Nightshade. Carefully administered over weeks." Gasps rippled through the chamber. Ashley's throat closed. She'd never even seen nightshade outside of the apothecary's locked cabinet, a cabinet only Emily had access to as the Alpha's daughter. "I didn't want to believe it," Emily whispered, turning to face the elders with tears now streaming freely down her perfect face. "But the only person who had access to my chambers, my food, my tea, was Ashley. My sister. The girl I called family." The word family landed like a stone in still water, sending ripples of disgust and pity through the watching wolves. Alpha Corwin, Ashley's stepfather, though he'd never used that title with any warmth, rose from his seat. His expression was carved from granite. "If the elders find her guilty," he said, his voice devoid of emotion, "I will not speak in her defense. Justice must be served, even when it breaks a father's heart." He'd never had a heart to break. Not for Ashley. "Does the accused wish to speak?" Elder Varric asked, though his tone suggested he'd rather she didn't. Ashley opened her mouth. Her vision swam. The bruises beneath her dress, new ones from last night, when Emily's personal guards had reminded her to stay quiet during the trial, burned like brands against her skin. The room tilted. Her breath came in shallow gasps. She managed. "She can barely stand," someone murmured from the gallery. "Guilt weighs heavy." Not guilt. Pain. But they'd never believe that. "I didn't," Ashley tried again, but her knees buckled. The world lurched sideways. She threw out her hands to catch herself, but there was nothing to grab, nothing to stop the fall. The stone floor rushed up to meet her, cold and final, and she thought, this is how it ends. Not with justice. With me broken on the ground while she watches. But the stone never came. Instead, heat. Arms caught her mid-fall, powerful and sure, pulling her against a chest that radiated warmth like a furnace. The scent hit her instantly, pine and steel and something wild, something that made her broken body arch toward it instinctively. Mate. The word blazed through her mind, foreign and impossible. Her wolf, dormant, human, silent for all 23 years of her life, suddenly screamed in recognition. Mate. Ashley forced her eyes open. The Alpha King stared down at her. Killian Thorne. The living legend. The wolf who'd unified the Northern Territories through sheer force of will and violence when necessary. He was supposed to be overseeing the trial from the High Observer's seat, a formality, since he rarely intervened in pack matters. But he'd moved. He'd caught her. And now his silver eyes, wolf eyes, ancient and burning, locked onto hers with an intensity that made her forget how to breathe. "Who," he said softly, his voice a rumble that vibrated through her entire body, "put these bruises on you?" The chamber fell into suffocating silence. Ashley's lips parted, but no sound came out. "How did he?" His hand moved, gentle despite its size, pushing back the sleeve of her dress to reveal the finger-shaped bruises mottling her forearm. Then his gaze dropped lower, tracking the way she held herself, the slight flinch when his arm pressed against her ribs. "Who did this?" Not a question this time. A command that made every wolf in the room lower their eyes in submission. Except one. Emily's face had gone sheet white. Her perfect composure cracked at the edges as she took an involuntary step backward. The Alpha King's gaze shifted to her. Slowly. Deliberately. And Ashley felt the bond between them pulse with something dark and furious. "The trial," Killian said, his voice dropping to a lethal whisper that somehow carried to every corner of the chamber, "is over." The Alpha King didn't ask permission. He lifted Ashley into his arms as though she were made of glass and fury, cradling her against his chest with a possessiveness that sent shockwaves through the chamber. Every wolf felt it, the primal claim, the bond snapping into place like a thunderclap that left the air vibrating with power. "My mate," Killian said simply, the words falling like an execution order. "You put your hands on my mate." Ashley's world tilted again, but this time not from pain. Mate. The word echoed in her mind, impossible and terrifying and somehow right in a way that nothing in her life had ever been. She'd spent 23 years believing she was broken, defective, human in a world that valued wolves above all else. Her mother had died when she was 6, taking with her any protection Ashley might have had. Her stepfather had tolerated her existence like one might tolerate a stray dog, fed, sheltered, but never loved. And Emily. Emily had made sure Ashley understood exactly what she was worth. Nothing. But the way the Alpha King held her now, the way his heartbeat thundered beneath her ear, steady and strong and alive, it whispered a different truth. "Everything." "Your Majesty," Elder Varek stammered, his earlier authority crumbling like wet parchment. "Surely there's been some mistake. The girl is human. She cannot possibly." "Are you suggesting," Killian interrupted, his voice soft and deadly, "that I don't recognize my own mate bond?" Silence. The elder's mouth opened and closed soundlessly. Ashley forced herself to focus through the haze of pain and shock. She needed to understand what was happening, needed to see the faces of the people who'd condemned her now that their perfect narrative had shattered. Her stepfather sat frozen in his seat, his face ashen. For the first time in her life, Ashley saw fear in his eyes. Not fear for her, fear of what her connection to the Alpha King meant for his own position, his own pack, his own carefully constructed lies. And Emily. Emily looked like she might vomit. Her stepsister's blue eyes were wild, darting between Ashley and the king, her mind clearly racing to find a way to spin this, to salvage the situation. But there was no spin for this. No pretty lie that could explain away a mate bond recognized by the most powerful alpha in the Northern Territories. "I can explain," Emily started, her voice no longer trembling with manufactured emotion but with genuine panic. "You will be silent," Killian commanded, and Emily's jaw snapped shut mid-word, her wolf forced into submission by the sheer dominance rolling off him in waves. He turned his attention back to Ashley, and his expression softened in a way that made her chest ache. "Can you speak?" he asked quietly, for her ears alone. Ashley nodded, though even that small movement sent pain lancing through her skull. "Yes," she whispered, her voice hoarse from hours of holding back screams during testimony. "Tell me your name." "Ashley. Ashley Halloway." Something flickered in his silver eyes. "Recognition." "No, knowledge." like the name confirmed something he'd already suspected. Ashley, he repeated, and the way he said it, like a prayer, like a promise, made her want to cry. I need you to answer one question, and I need the truth. Have you been harmed by anyone in this chamber? The question hung in the air like a blade. Ashley's gaze found Emily's. Her stepsister stood trembling now, all pretense of innocence stripped away, replaced by raw fear. For years, Emily had held all the power. The wolf. The father's love. The pack's adoration. She'd wielded that power like a weapon, cutting Ashley down piece by piece, always in the shadows where no one would see. But now the shadows had light. Yes, Ashley said, her voice stronger now. For 7 years, since my stepfather mated Emily's mother, I've been locked in cellars, beaten by guards paid to leave no visible marks, starved, and told that my humanity made me worthless. My stepsister orchestrated it all. She poisoned herself to frame me because her voice caught. Because I found her mother's journal. The one that detailed how they planned to absorb my mother's territory after she died. How they poisoned my mother. Gasps erupted throughout the chamber. Alpha Corwin shot to his feet. That's a lie. My mate died of nightshade poisoning, Ashley finished, her eyes never leaving Emily's face. The same poison Emily claimed I used on her. The same poison I found residue of in her private chambers 3 months ago. She knew I'd found it. Knew I had proof. So she beat me until I could barely stand and then dragged me here to be executed before I could speak. These are the delusions of a jealous, sick girl, Emily tried, but her voice shook. Show them, Killian commanded, his voice cutting through the chaos. Show them the marks. Ashley hesitated. The bruises beneath her dress weren't just evidence, they were shame, humiliation, proof of how powerless she'd been to stop her own torture. But the Alpha King's arms tightened around her, protective and patient. You are safe now, he murmured. No one will touch you again. I swear it on my life. And Ashley believed him. With trembling fingers, she pulled aside the high collar of her dress, revealing the ring of bruises around her throat, handprints, clear as day. Then she pushed up her sleeves, showing the identical marks on both wrists. Shackle wounds. Fresh ones. Last night, she said quietly, Emily's guards chained me in the cellar. She came down personally to remind me that if I spoke during the trial, she'd make sure my death was slow. Painful. She told me she'd already won. The chamber erupted into chaos, wolves shouting, elders demanding order, pack members surging to their feet in confusion and rage. But Killian simply held Ashley closer, his eyes locked on Emily with the cold promise of vengeance. You tortured my mate, he said softly. You framed her for murder. You stood in this court and performed your innocence while she bled. Emily backed away, her hands raised. I didn't know, I never thought, she's just human, I didn't realize that she was mine. Killian's smile was a predator's grin. That changes nothing. You tortured an innocent. And for that, Lady Emily, he spat the title like poison, you will answer to me. The guards came for Emily within seconds. Not her father's guards, his. The Alpha King's personal sentinels, wolves whose loyalty had been forged in blood and battle, warriors who moved like shadows and struck like lightning. They flanked Emily before she could take another step backward, their hands closing around her arms with iron grip. No! Emily shrieked, her composure finally shattering completely. Father! Father, do something! Alpha Corwin stood frozen, trapped between his daughter and his survival instinct. Ashley watched the calculation flash across his face, save Emily and make an enemy of the Alpha King, or sacrifice her and possibly save himself. He chose himself. Your Majesty, Corwin said carefully, lowering his eyes in submission, "If my daughter has committed crimes, she must face justice. I will not interfere with your authority." Emily's face went white. "You coward." One of the sentinels clamped a hand over her mouth, silencing her mid-scream. Killian's attention shifted to the elders. "Elder Varric. You presided over this mockery of a trial. Tell me, did you investigate the accusations against Ashley Halloway, or did you simply accept the word of an alpha's daughter?" Varric's white beard trembled. We followed proper protocol. Witnesses were questioned, evidence was." "What evidence?" Killian's voice cracked like a whip. "Testimony from paid liars. Accusations without proof. Where is the nightshade that supposedly poisoned Lady Emily? Where are the sacred artifacts Ashley allegedly stole? Where is any physical evidence?" Silence. "I thought so." Killian turned his gaze on the entire assembly, and Ashley felt his power roll through the chamber like thunder before a storm. This trial was a stage play with a predetermined ending. Execution. And you all sat here, complicit, watching an innocent woman be condemned because she had the misfortune of being human in a world that values fangs over truth. Shame rippled through the gallery. Wolves who'd been ready to watch her die now couldn't meet her eyes. "The trial is over," Killian declared. "Ashley Halloway is absolved of all charges. Furthermore, she is under my personal protection as my mate. Anyone who harms her, threatens her, or even looks at her with ill intent will answer to me directly. Is that understood?" A chorus of, "Yes, Your Majesty," echoed through the chamber. Ashley's mind reeled. Mate. Protected. Absolved. The words felt like they belonged to someone else's story, not hers. She'd walked into this chamber expecting to die. Instead, she was being held by a king who'd just upended the entire pack hierarchy to defend her. "As for you," Killian continued, his gaze locking on Emily, "you will be held in the palace dungeons pending a full investigation into the death of Ashley's mother, the abuse of my mate, and conspiracy to commit murder through false testimony. If you're found guilty," his smile turned cold, "you'll discover that I'm far less merciful than the elders you manipulated." Emily thrashed against the guard's grip, her eyes wild with desperation. "She's lying. Ashley has always been jealous, always trying to." "Take her," Killian commanded. The sentinels dragged Emily toward the chamber's rear exit. Her screams echoed off the stone walls, growing fainter as they hauled her into the darkness below the court. Ashley watched her stepsister disappear and felt nothing. No triumph. No relief. Just a hollow exhaustion that went bone deep. "You're trembling," Killian murmured, his attention back on her completely. Ashley realized he was right. Her entire body shook like a leaf in a storm, adrenaline and shock finally catching up to her now that the immediate danger had passed. "I need to get you out of here," he said, more to himself than to her. Then louder, addressing the chamber, "This court is dismissed. Alpha Corwin, you will remain. We have much to discuss about how you allowed this to happen under your authority." Corwin's face drained of what little color remained. But Ashley barely registered it. The room had started to spin again, her vision tunneling as her body finally gave up the fight to stay conscious. She'd been running on terror and desperation for so long that now, held safe in the Alpha King's arms, her mind simply let go. "Ashley." Killian's voice sharpened with concern. "Stay with me. Don't." The darkness pulled her under like a riptide. She woke to softness. That was the first shock, the feeling of silk against her skin instead of rough stone or thin straw. The second shock was the absence of pain. Not completely gone, but muted, as though someone had wrapped her wounds in clouds. Ashley's eyes fluttered open to find herself in a bed larger than her entire cellar room had been. Canopy curtains the color of midnight hung around her, tied back with silver cords. Moonlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating a chamber that could only belong to royalty. "You're awake." She turned her head, slowly, carefully, to find Killian sitting in a chair beside the bed. He'd removed his formal court jacket, leaving him in a simple black shirt that did nothing to hide the raw power of his frame. His silver eyes tracked her every movement with an intensity that should have frightened her. Instead, she felt safe. "Where am I?" Her voice came out rough. "My chamber's in the palace. The healers attended to you while you slept. They've treated your wounds and given you something for the pain." He leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "How do you feel?" Ashley took inventory. Her ribs still ached, but the sharp, stabbing sensation was gone. The bruises on her throat felt less like they were choking her. Even her head had stopped pounding. "Better," she admitted. "I don't understand why you." She stopped, searching for the right words. "Why you helped me. You don't know me." Something flickered in his expression. Not quite a smile, but close. "I know you're my mate," he said simply. "I know you've survived 7 years of torture and still had the courage to stand in that chamber and speak truth. I know you're stronger than you realize." He paused. "And I know that whoever taught you that you were worthless was a liar." Tears burned behind Ashley's eyes. She blinked them back furiously. "I'm human," she whispered. "I don't have a wolf. How can I possibly be your mate?" Killian stood and moved to the bed's edge, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from him. "The mate bond doesn't ask permission, Ashley. It doesn't care about bloodlines or traditions. It simply is." His hand reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away. She didn't. His fingers brushed her cheek, gentle as a whisper, and the bond between them flared to life, a golden thread connecting her heart to his, impossible to deny. "You feel it too," he said softly. "Don't you?" Ashley nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. "Then that's all that matters." His thumb traced her jawline. "You're mine now. Under my protection. And I promise you, Ashley Halloway, no one will hurt you again." The next 3 days passed in a blur of impossibilities. Ashley woke each morning in silk sheets that smelled like pine and storm, ate meals that didn't come with the fear of poison, and walked through palace corridors without feeling the weight of chains on her wrists. The healers visited twice daily, their gentle hands replacing Emily's cruelty with something Ashley had almost forgotten existed: kindness. But freedom, she was learning, came with complications. "You can't just hide her away forever," a voice argued from outside the chamber doors. Female, sharp, and utterly unafraid of the Alpha King. "The packs are already talking. A human mate. Half of them think it's a political move, the other half think you've lost your mind." Ashley pressed herself against the door, her heart hammering. She'd been trying to find the library when she'd heard voices, Killian's low rumble and this stranger's cutting tone. "What the packs think," Killian replied, dangerously soft, "is irrelevant." "Is it?" The woman's footsteps paced. "You've ruled the Northern Territories for 15 years by being strategic, Killian. This isn't strategic, this is reckless. You claimed a girl you'd never met, executed a member of a prominent family without trial." "Emily is alive and awaiting proper investigation," Killian interrupted. "Hardly executed." Semantics. "The point is, you're acting on instinct instead of logic, and that makes you vulnerable. Your enemies are circling. They see weakness." Ashley's stomach twisted. She was the weakness. The human girl who'd somehow become the Alpha King's mate and threatened the stability of his entire kingdom in the process. "Let them circle," Killian said. Anyone who thinks my mate makes me weak will learn otherwise. A pause. Then the woman spoke again, her voice softer. I'm not saying reject her. I'm saying prepare her. If she's going to survive in this world, in your world, she needs to be more than a victim you rescued. She needs to be a queen. Ashley's breath caught. Queen. The word was absurd. She'd spent 7 years being told she was worthless, and now she was supposed to become, what? Royalty. I know, Killian said quietly, and Ashley heard something in his voice she hadn't expected. Uncertainty. I'm trying to give her time to heal first. Time is a luxury you don't have. The summit is in 2 weeks. Every alpha in the territories will be there, and they'll all want to see this human mate who's supposedly stolen your heart. If she walks in unprepared, they'll tear her apart. Footsteps approached the door. Ashley stumbled backward just as it opened, revealing Killian and a striking woman with silver-streaked black hair and eyes like chips of amber. The woman's gaze landed on Ashley, assessment flickering across her features. How much did you hear? Killian asked, his expression unreadable. Ashley lifted her chin, refusing to cower. Enough to know I'm a liability. The woman's lips curved into something that might have been approval. Smart. I like her already. She extended a hand. Linda Ashford. The king's second and, apparently, your new worst nightmare. Ashley shook her hand cautiously. Ashley Halloway. I know who you are. The entire kingdom knows who you are. Linda's grip was firm, testing. The question is, do you know who you need to become? Linda, Killian warned. No, she's right. Ashley pulled her hand back, meeting Linda's challenging stare. I heard what you said. About the summit. About me needing to be more than. She faltered, hating how small her voice sounded. More than what I am. Killian moved to her side instantly, his presence a shield. You don't have to prove anything to anyone. Yes, she does, Linda countered. To them, at least. She gestured vaguely toward the windows, toward the vast territories beyond. You can protect her from physical harm, Killian, but you can't protect her from politics. The alphas will test her. They'll look for weakness, for proof that this bond is a mistake. If she crumbles. I won't. The words left Ashley's mouth before she could stop them. Both Killian and Linda turned to look at her. Ashley's hands trembled, but she fisted them at her sides, forcing herself to stand straight despite the lingering ache in her ribs. I survived 7 years of Emily. I can survive a few alphas questioning my worth. Linda's smile widened. There's the fire. Good. You'll need it. She looked at Killian. 2 weeks. I'll train her myself. Train her for what, exactly? Killian's voice held an edge of protectiveness that made Ashley's heart skip. Everything. Pack politics. Combat basics. How to command a room full of wolves without having a wolf of your own. Linda's gaze returned to Ashley. How to be a queen instead of a victim. The word stung, but Ashley knew it was true. She'd been a victim for so long she'd almost forgotten what else she could be. And if I say no? Ashley asked quietly. Then you'll walk into that summit unprepared, and Killian's enemies will use you to destroy him. Linda's bluntness was almost refreshing. Your choice. Ashley looked at Killian, searching his face for guidance. But instead of telling her what to do, he simply asked, What do you want, Ashley? What did she want? To hide. To let Killian protect her forever while whispers of weakness followed them both. Or to stand beside him, truly beside him, as something more than the broken girl he'd saved. I want to learn, Ashley said, surprised by the steadiness in her voice. I want to be strong enough that when they look at me, they don't see a mistake. They see someone who belongs at your side. Killian's expression softened, and he reached for her hand, threading his fingers through hers. The mate bond hummed with approval at the touch. You already belong, he murmured. Then I want them to see it too. Linda clapped her hands once, decisive. Excellent. We start tomorrow at dawn. We're something you can move in. She headed for the door, then paused. Oh, and Ashley. The victim routine ends tonight. Tomorrow, you start becoming dangerous. The door closed behind her, leaving Ashley alone with Killian and the weight of what she'd just agreed to. Are you sure? Killian asked, pulling her closer. Linda's training methods are intense. Ashley leaned into his warmth, drawing strength from the bond that tied them together. I'm sure. I'm tired of being afraid. His arms wrapped around her, protective and possessive. Then I'll be there, he promised. Every step. But neither of them knew that in the dungeons below, Emily was already weaving a new web of lies, one that would make the trial look like mercy. Dawn came with brutality. Linda didn't ease Ashley into training, she threw her into the deep end and watched to see if she'd drown. The palace training ground stretched across an acre of packed dirt and stone, ringed by targets, weapon racks, and a sparring circle that had seen more blood than Ashley cared to imagine. Again, Linda barked, circling Ashley like a predator. You're dropping your left shoulder. Any wolf worth their fangs will exploit that. Ashley gritted her teeth and reset her stance, sweat already stinging her eyes despite the cool morning air. Her muscles screamed in protest, the bruises had healed, but 7 years of captivity had left her weak, untrained. I'm trying, she panted. Trying isn't good enough. Linda moved faster than Ashley could track, sweeping her legs out from under her. Ashley hit the ground hard, the impact rattling her teeth. In 2 weeks, you'll stand before alphas who've spent centuries perfecting the art of dominance. They'll smell your fear. They'll test you. And if you try instead of succeed, Killian's enemies will use you to tear him down. Ashley pushed herself up, ignoring the sting of scraped palms. Then teach me not to fail. Something gleamed in Linda's eyes, respect, maybe. Better. Now again. And this time, pretend I'm Emily. The name hit Ashley like a slap, but it also ignited something in her chest. Rage. Years of swallowed anger suddenly boiling to the surface. She reset her stance, and when Linda came at her again, Ashley didn't freeze. She moved, clumsy, untrained, but fierce. Her fist connected with Linda's raised forearm in a block that sent shockwaves up Ashley's arm. Good. Linda's grin was feral. Channel that. Use it. They trained until Ashley's legs gave out, until her lungs burned and her vision blurred. But when Linda finally called a break, Ashley remained standing. You've got potential, Linda admitted, tossing Ashley a waterskin. Raw, unfocused, but there's fire under all that fear. Ashley drank deeply, then asked the question that had been burning in her mind since yesterday. Why are you helping me? You don't know me. Linda's expression shifted, something old and painful flickering across her features. Because 15 years ago, I was you. Human. Weak. In love with a wolf who was too good for me. She looked away. I didn't have someone like Killian to protect me. My mate's pack rejected me, and he chose them over me. Broke the bond. Ashley's breath caught. Breaking a mate bond was excruciating, often fatal. I survived, Linda continued, her voice hardening. Barely. And I swore I'd never be weak again. Never let anyone make me feel worthless because I didn't have fangs. She met Ashley's gaze. Killian gave me purpose when I had nothing. So when his mate needed training, I volunteered. Consider it paying forward the protection I never got. Before Ashley could respond, a guard appeared at the training grounds entrance. Lady Linda. His Majesty requests your presence in the interrogation chamber. Immediately. Linda's expression darkened. Emily. The guard nodded. Go, Ashley said quickly. I'll keep practicing. But Linda shook her head. No. You're coming with me. What? Why? Because Emily tortured you for 7 years, and you deserve to see her answer for it. Linda's smile turned sharp. Besides, queens don't hide from their enemies. They face them. The dungeons beneath the palace were everything Ashley's nightmares had promised, cold, dark, and reeking of despair. But unlike the cellar where Emily had kept her, these cells were clean, guarded, and built to hold creatures far more dangerous than a human girl. Killian stood outside one of the iron-barred doors, his expression carved from ice. When he saw Ashley, something softened in his eyes. You don't have to be here, he said quietly. Yes, I do. Ashley moved to his side, and he took her hand without hesitation. The bond between them pulsed with warmth, steadying her. Through the bars, Ashley saw Emily. Her stepsister had been stripped of her finery. No moonflowers in her hair, no pristine white dress. Just rough prison clothes and the harsh reality of captivity. But even disheveled, Emily's beauty remained, and so did her venom. Come to gloat. Emily sneered when she saw Ashley. How does it feel, little mouse, playing dress-up as a queen? How does it feel? Ashley countered, surprising herself with the steadiness in her voice, knowing you destroyed your own life trying to destroy mine. Emily's eyes flashed. You think you've won. You think this bond makes you special. She laughed, the sound brittle and cruel. He'll tire of you. They always do. And when he realizes what a liability you are. Enough. Killian's voice cut through the cell like a blade. We didn't come here for your delusions, Emily. We came for answers. He nodded to Linda, who produced a leather journal from her satchel, old, water-stained, the pages yellowed with age. Ashley's heart stopped. Your mother's journal, Linda said, confirming what Ashley already knew. We found it hidden in Emily's chambers. Along with correspondence between her mother and a very interesting apothecary regarding nightshade purchases dating back 7 years. Emily's face went white. You didn't just poison yourself to frame Ashley, Killian continued, his voice deadly calm. You helped your mother poison Ashley's mother. Alpha Susan Halloway. A territory leader whose lands your family absorbed after her convenient death. That's not, I was a child, Emily's composure cracked completely. My mother planned it, not me. But you knew. Ashley's voice emerged quiet but unwavering. You knew what she'd done, and you helped cover it up. Then you spent 7 years making sure I never found proof. Emily's silence was answer enough. Killian's hand tightened around Ashley's. There's more, he said softly. The investigation uncovered something else. Something you need to hear. Linda opened the journal to a marked page and began to read. My daughter shows signs. The healer confirmed it today. Ashley carries the dormant wolf gene, rare in human bloodlines, but present. It may never manifest, but if it does. Ashley's world tilted. Wolf gene. Your mother was human, Linda explained gently, but she carried recessive wolf genetics. It's rare, but documented. Some humans carry the gene without ever shifting. But the potential is there, buried deep. That's why you never had a wolf, Killian said, realization dawning in his eyes. Not because you couldn't. Because it's dormant. Emily laughed then, high, hysterical, broken. Oh, this is perfect. All those years I tortured you for being human, and you might have been a wolf the whole time. She pressed her hands to her face. If my mother had known, if she'd realized. She would have killed me sooner, Ashley finished, the truth settling over her like ice water. The journal entries confirmed it. Emily's mother had feared that if Ashley's wolf ever emerged, she'd challenge for her mother's territory. So she'd poisoned Susan, married Corwin, and spent years making sure Ashley remained broken, beaten, too traumatized for any dormant wolf to surface. Can it still manifest? Ashley asked, her voice small. Killian turned to her, his expression intense. The mate bond is powerful, Ashley. It's been known to awaken dormant genetics. To call forth what was always there. His hand cupped her face. You may yet become the wolf they tried to prevent. In her cell, Emily screamed, rage and terror and the sound of a plan 7 years in the making finally, irreversibly destroyed. The summit arrived like an executioner's blade, sharp, inevitable, and promising blood. Ashley stood before the mirror in Killian's chambers, barely recognizing the woman staring back. 2 weeks of Linda's brutal training had carved away the softness of captivity, replacing it with lean muscle and harder edges. The dress she wore, midnight blue silk that seemed to drink the light, had been chosen to make a statement. I am not prey. But her hands still trembled as she fastened the silver clasp at her throat. You don't have to do this, Killian said from behind her, his reflection appearing in the mirror. He wore formal court attire, black leather and silver embroidery that marked him as king. Lethal. Untouchable. Everything she wasn't. Yes, I do. Ashley turned to face him, forcing her spine straight. Every alpha in the territories will be watching. Waiting for me to fail. If I hide, they'll say you're ashamed of me. I could never be ashamed of you. He crossed to her, his hands settling on her shoulders with familiar warmth. But they'll test you, Ashley. They'll push. Some will be subtle, others. He trailed off, jaw tightening. Just stay close to me. Please. She nodded, not trusting her voice. The summit hall was a cathedral of stone and ancient power. Hundreds of wolves filled the space, alphas, betas, pack representatives from every corner of the northern territories. Their eyes tracked Ashley the moment she entered on Killian's arm, curiosity and contempt warring in their gazes. Human. Weak. Unworthy. She could almost hear their thoughts. The first hour passed in a blur of introductions and thinly veiled insults disguised as pleasantries. Ashley smiled until her face ached, responded to provocations with the diplomatic phrases Linda had drilled into her, and tried to ignore the way some wolves literally turned their backs when Killian introduced her as his mate. Then Alpha Donald approached. He was massive even by wolf standards, 7 feet of scarred muscle and predatory grace. His pack controlled the eastern wastes, a brutal territory where only the strong survived. So this is the human who's bewitched our king, Donald drawled, his eyes raking over Ashley with undisguised disdain. Tell me, girl, can you even feel the mate bond? Or is this just a human's desperate attempt to climb above her station? The hall quieted, wolves turning to watch the confrontation. Killian's power flooded the space, a warning. Careful, Donald. I'm simply asking questions we're all thinking. Donald smiled, showing too many teeth. The bond is sacred. It requires 2 wolves, 2 equals. What you have is, well, it's certainly something, but mate bond. He laughed. I think not. Ashley felt the words like a knife between her ribs. Because part of her wondered the same thing. She could feel the pull toward Killian, the way her heart raced when he was near, but was it truly the mate bond? Or just a human's desperate gratitude toward her savior? Ashley, Killian's voice was gentle, meant only for her, ignore him. He's trying to provoke. Prove it, Donald interrupted, his challenge ringing through the hall. If you're truly mates, prove it. Let her command you. Any mate can compel their partner through the bond, even one as broken as yours appears to be. Ashley's blood ran cold. She'd never tried to use the bond that way. Didn't even know if she could. This is unnecessary, Killian growled. Is it? Or are you afraid she'll fail? Donald's gaze locked on Ashley. One command, human. Make the Alpha King kneel. If the bond is real, he won't be able to resist. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Some wolves looked intrigued. Others wore expressions of pity. Ashley felt the trap closing around her. If she refused, they'd say she was too weak to try. If she tried and failed, they'd have proof the bond was false. Either way, she'd cement herself as Killian's greatest weakness. Donald, enough, Killian started. Kneel, Ashley said quietly. The word fell into silence. She hadn't meant to say it. Hadn't planned it. But suddenly the bond between them burned, golden and fierce, and she felt it, the thread connecting her soul to his, thrumming with power she'd never dared to touch. Kneel, she repeated, stronger this time, pouring everything into the command. Her fear. Her desperation. Her need for this to work. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then Killian's eyes flashed silver, his wolf rising to the surface in response to his mate's command. His body moved without his conscious permission, dropping to one knee before her despite every instinct screaming against submitting in front of rival alphas. The hall erupted in shocked whispers. Ashley stared down at him, her heart hammering. It had worked. The bond was real. But Killian's expression, God's, his expression. Humiliation warred with love, his jaw clenched tight as he fought the compulsion she'd placed on him. Release him, Linda's voice cut through Ashley's shock. Now, before you damage more than his pride. Ashley gasped and severed the command. Killian rose immediately, his movements controlled despite the fury radiating from him. Not fury at her, she realized, but at the situation. At Donald for forcing this. At himself for not protecting her from it. Satisfied? Killian's voice could have frozen blood as he turned to Donald. The Eastern Alpha bowed mockingly. Completely. Though I wonder if your mate understands what she's just done. What do you mean? Ashley asked, dread pooling in her stomach. You made the Alpha King kneel before his rivals. Donald's smile was cruel. Every wolf in this hall just witnessed his submission. They'll question whether he's strong enough to lead if a human girl can command him so easily. He leaned closer. You wanted to prove you belonged at his side. Instead, you've proven you're exactly what we feared, a weakness he can't afford. The words hit like physical blows. Around them, Ashley saw the calculation in other alphas' eyes. The way they reassessed Killian now, looking for cracks in his armor. The way some smiled, already planning how to exploit this moment. She'd wanted to prove her worth. Instead, she'd handed Killian's enemies the weapon they needed to destroy him. Ashley, Killian reached for her. But she stepped back, horror crushing her chest. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, I should never have. You did what you had to, he said firmly. No. Donald's right. I'm your weakness. Tears burned her eyes. Maybe the bond is a mistake. Killian's face went white. Don't say that. But Ashley couldn't breathe, couldn't think past the crushing realization that loving him might be the thing that destroyed him. She turned and fled the summit hall, Killian's anguished call of her name echoing behind her like a wound that would never heal. Ashley ran until the palace corridors blurred into stone and shadow, until her lungs burned and her legs threatened to give out. She didn't know where she was going, just away. Away from the summit hall, away from the wolves who'd watched her humiliate Killian, away from the crushing weight of being something he never should have claimed. She finally collapsed in an empty courtyard, pressing her back against the cold wall as sobs tore through her chest. Running won't change what happened. Ashley's head snapped up to find Linda standing at the courtyard entrance, arms crossed, expression unreadable. Go away, Ashley choked out. I've ruined everything. Just like they said I would. Have you? Linda moved closer, settling onto the bench across from Ashley. Or did you just give Killian's enemies exactly what they were fishing for? I made him kneel. In front of everyone. Ashley's voice cracked. Donald was right. I'm a weakness he can't afford. Donald is a manipulative bastard who's been trying to undermine Killian for years, Linda countered sharply. He set the trap perfectly. Challenge refused makes you look weak, challenge accepted makes Killian look weak. No matter what you chose, you'd lose. Then I should never have come. I should have. What? Hidden. Let them whisper about the king's mysterious human mate who's too ashamed to show her face. Linda's eyes flashed. That would have been worse. At least now they know the bond is real. A bond that lets me control him. Ashley pressed her palms to her face. How is that better? Because it proves you're connected. Every mated pair can compel each other through the bond. It's not one-sided. Killian could have made you kneel just as easily. Linda leaned forward. But here's what Donald didn't tell you. The fact that you released the command immediately shows restraint. Control. That's not weakness, Ashley. That's strength. Ashley looked up, tears still streaming. Then why does it feel like I destroyed him? Because you're scared. Linda's voice softened. And fear makes us believe the worst. But I've known Killian for 15 years. That man has survived assassination attempts, territory wars, and political coups. He's not fragile. And he sure as hell doesn't need you to protect him by running away. What if I'm not strong enough for this? The question emerged small, broken. What if everyone's right and I don't belong? Stop. The command in Linda's voice made Ashley's breath catch. You survived 7 years of torture. You stood in that summit hall despite knowing every wolf there wanted you to fail. You proved the bond was real even though it terrified you. She paused. The only person saying you don't belong is you. The words hit like a lightning strike. Ashley had spent so long believing Emily's poison, that she was worthless, weak, human and therefore lesser, that even now, even free, she was still fighting those chains. I don't know how to be what he needs, Ashley whispered. Then learn. Fight. Choose to be worthy instead of waiting for someone to tell you that you are. Linda stood, extending her hand. But you can't do that hiding in a courtyard while Killian faces the summit alone. Ashley stared at that outstretched hand, her mind racing. She could stay here. Let the fear win. Prove everyone right about the human girl who couldn't handle the pressure. Or she could stand up. Go back. Face the wolves who wanted her to fail and show them that she refused to break. Victims hide. Queens fight back. Ashley took Linda's hand. When Ashley re-entered the summit hall, the first thing she felt was Killian's relief crash through the bond like a tidal wave. He stood surrounded by a cluster of alphas, his expression carefully neutral, but his eyes found hers immediately, desperate, searching. I'm here, she tried to send through the bond. I'm sorry. I'm here. The conversations around the hall stuttered as wolves noticed her return. Donald stood near the far wall, his smirk widening. The human returns, he called out. Couldn't stay away from your king's leash. Ashley's steps faltered, but Linda's presence at her back steadied her. "Actually," Ashley said, her voice carrying across the hall with a strength that surprised even her, "I came back to finish a conversation." She crossed the space between them, every eye tracking her movement. When she reached Donald, she stopped just outside his personal space, close enough to challenge, not close enough to threaten. "You wanted proof the bond was real," she continued. "I gave it to you. Now let me give you something else, a truth you seem to have forgotten." Donald's eyebrow arched. "And what truth is that, little human?" "That mate bonds don't make wolves weak. They make them lethal." Ashley felt the bond thrumming between her and Killian, felt his wolf responding to her courage. "You saw me compel the Alpha King. But what you didn't see is that I could have commanded him to tear you apart, and he would have done it. Happily. Because that's what mates do, they protect each other. Fiercely. Without hesitation." The hall had gone deathly quiet. "So if you think my humanity makes me a weakness," Ashley finished, her gaze locked on Donald's, "I invite you to test that theory. Challenge me. Threaten me. See what happens when you provoke a king through his mate bond." For a long moment, Donald just stared. Then slowly, deliberately, he smiled, but this time there was respect beneath the amusement. "Well," he said, inclining his head slightly. "Perhaps there's more wolf in you than I thought." Ashley didn't bow back. Didn't break eye contact. Just stood her ground until Donald turned and walked away. Only then did her knees start to shake. Killian was at her side in an instant, his hand finding hers. "That was either the bravest or most reckless thing I've ever witnessed," he murmured. "Both," Ashley admitted, her voice trembling now that the adrenaline was fading. "Definitely both. I thought I'd lost you." His fingers tightened around hers. "When you ran." "I'm sorry. I panicked." She looked up at him. "But I'm not running anymore. Whatever comes next, we face it together." Something fierce and possessive flared in Killian's eyes. "Together," he agreed. Across the hall, Linda caught Ashley's gaze and nodded once. "Well done." But in the shadows near the entrance, a messenger slipped through the doors, carrying news that would shatter everything. Emily had escaped. And she'd taken the journal with her. The messenger's words cut through the summit hall like a blade through silk. "Your Majesty, the prisoner has escaped. Emily Halloway is gone." Every conversation died. Every wolf turned to stare as Killian's power exploded outward, rattling the ancient chandeliers and making the weaker wolves drop their eyes in submission. "How?" The single word promised violence. The messenger, a young guard who looked ready to bolt, stammered, "The dungeon guards were found unconscious. Silver poisoning. Someone from the inside helped her, sire. And she took evidence from the vault." Ashley's blood turned to ice. "The journal." Killian's gaze snapped to her, understanding dawning in his silver eyes. Her mother's journal, the only proof of the conspiracy that had killed an alpha and stolen her territory. The evidence that could destroy Emily and everyone who'd helped her. Gone. "She's running," Linda said, appearing at Killian's side. "But she won't get far. Not without help. She already has help." Alpha Corwin's voice rang out from across the hall. Ashley's stepfather stepped forward, his expression carved from stone. "My daughter is many things, but stupid isn't one of them. She'll have planned this. Set up safe houses, paid contacts. You would know," Killian said coldly. "Since you enabled her for years." Corwin's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. "I'm offering information. Emily has an estate in the Western Pass. Remote. Defensible. If she's anywhere, it's there. And we should trust you because..." Linda's hand dropped to her blade. Because if Emily has that journal, she'll use it to negotiate. She'll threaten to expose not just her own crimes, but those of every alpha who turned a blind eye to her mother's schemes. Corwin's gaze swept the hall, and Ashley saw several wolves shift uncomfortably. Half the packs in this room benefited when Susan Holloway's territory was absorbed. If that evidence becomes public, it would destabilize the entire region, Killian finished, his voice deadly quiet. Exactly the chaos my enemies have been waiting for. Donald stepped forward, surprising everyone. Then we hunt together. A joint force. Put the girl down before she can scatter that poison. You mean kill her, Ashley said, her voice cutting through the planning. You're talking about executing my stepsister. Every eye turned to her. She tortured you for 7 years, Donald pointed out. Why do you care? Because I'm not her. Ashley moved to Killian's side, feeling the bond pulse between them. And because execution without trial makes us no better than the wolves who tried to condemn me. She looked at Killian. We bring her back alive. We do this the right way. Killian studied her face, and Ashley saw the war behind his eyes, the king who wanted justice versus the mate who wanted vengeance for what Emily had done to her. Alive, he agreed finally. But if she resists, then we do what we must. Ashley's voice was steel. But we try mercy first. The Western Pass estate loomed against the moonlit sky like a crown of stone and shadow. Killian's forces surrounded it, 50 of his best warriors, plus volunteers from packs who wanted to see the scandal ended before it began. Ashley crouched beside Killian in the tree line, her heart hammering. Linda had insisted she wear leather armor, and now Ashley understood why. This wasn't a rescue mission. It was a siege. There, Linda whispered, pointing to movement in an upper window. She's there. And she's not alone. Through the window, Ashley glimpsed Emily, and beside her, a man in ornate robes. An elder. One of the wolves who'd presided over Ashley's trial. Elder Varric, Killian growled. He's been working with her all along. Not just him, Corwin said grimly, having insisted on joining the hunt. Look at the guards. Those are Eastern Pack markings. Donald's pack. Every wolf turned to look at the Eastern Alpha, who'd gone dangerously still. I gave no such order, Donald said quietly, but his eyes blazed with fury. Someone in my pack has betrayed me. We'll sort out traitors later, Killian decided. Right now, we end this. He turned to Ashley. Stay here with the reserves. If anything goes wrong. No. Ashley stood, checking the blade Linda had given her. She used me as bait for 7 years. It's time I return the favor. Ashley. I'm not asking permission. She met his gaze steadily. I'm your mate, not your prisoner. We face this together. Remember? Killian's expression softened, then hardened with resolve. Together, he agreed. But you follow my lead. Understand? Ashley nodded. The assault began with precision, wolves scaling walls, breaking through defenses, overwhelming Emily's hired guards with brutal efficiency. Ashley stayed close to Killian as they fought their way inside, her blade finding targets with a skill that surprised her. Linda's training had sunk deeper than she'd realized. They found Emily in the estate's library, the journal clutched to her chest like a shield. Stay back, she screamed as they entered. Elder Varric stood beside her, along with 3 wolves wearing Eastern Pack colors. I'll burn it. I swear I'll burn every page. And destroy the only leverage you have. Killian circled slowly, his warriors fanning out. We both know you won't. You don't know anything. Emily's composure had shattered completely. Her golden hair hung in tangles, her dress was torn, and her eyes, gods, her eyes looked feral. Desperate. I spent years building this plan. Years. And she, her gaze locked on Ashley with pure hatred. She ruins everything just by existing. You ruined yourself, Ashley said quietly. I was never your enemy, Emily. You made me one because you couldn't stand that your mother chose cruelty over family. My mother was strong. Emily shrieked. She took what she wanted. She didn't let weak, pathetic humans stand in her way. She was a murderer, Ashley countered. And you became one too when you helped her poison my mother. I was a child. I didn't understand. Tears streamed down Emily's face. But when I did, when I realized what we'd done, it was too late. So I made sure you'd never find out. Made sure you'd be too broken to fight back. Except I did fight back, Ashley said softly. And I won. Something in Emily snapped. She lunged, not at Ashley, but at the fireplace, the journal held over the flames. Ashley moved on instinct, the bond with Killian flaring to life. She didn't command him this time. She didn't need to. They moved together, perfectly synchronized, Killian tackling Varek and the guards while Ashley threw herself at Emily. They hit the ground hard, the journal skittering across the floor. Emily fought like a wild thing, nails raking, teeth snapping, but Ashley had been forged in Linda's brutal training. She pinned Emily's arms, breathing hard. It's over. It's never over, Emily spat. Even if you take me, there are others. Wolves who don't want a human queen. Who'll keep fighting until... Her words cut off as Ashley's hand glowed. Golden light erupted from Ashley's palm, spreading up her arms in patterns like lightning. Power, ancient, primal, wolf, surged through her body as the dormant gene her mother had carried finally, impossibly, awakened. The mate bond had done it. Called forth what had always been sleeping. When Ashley looked up, her eyes blazed with amber fire. Her wolf had come home. The transformation didn't complete, not yet. Ashley's wolf hovered just beneath her skin, a presence so powerful it made the air around her shimmer with heat. But the message was clear. She was no longer human. She was no longer prey. Emily stared up at her with wide, terrified eyes. No. You can't. But I am. Ashley's voice carried harmonics now, layered with the resonance of her emerging wolf. Everything you did to keep me weak, to keep me broken, it failed. The wolf was always there. You just gave me every reason to fight for her. Around them, the library had gone silent. Killian's warriors had subdued Varek and the traitorous guards. Donald stood in the doorway, his expression caught between shock and something that looked almost like approval. Ashley. Killian's voice was gentle as he approached, his hand extended. Let her go. You've won. Ashley looked down at Emily, this woman who'd haunted her nightmares, who'd stolen 7 years of her life, who'd murdered her mother and tried to destroy everything Ashley might become. And felt pity. I could hurt you, Ashley said quietly. I could make you feel every moment of pain you gave me. My wolf wants to. She's screaming for it. She paused. But I'm not you, Emily. I never was. She stood, releasing her stepsister, and took Killian's hand. The moment their skin touched, the golden light intensified, the bond between them singing with recognition and joy. Take her to the dungeons, Killian commanded his guards. Varek and the traitors as well. They'll stand proper trial for conspiracy, murder, and treason. As the guards hauled Emily to her feet, she looked at Ashley one last time. I could have loved you, she whispered, something broken and true in her voice. If things had been different. If my mother hadn't, she stopped. I'm sorry. For what it's worth. Ashley wanted to hate her. Should hate her. But all she felt was exhaustion. I hope you find peace, she said. Even if it's behind bars. Emily laughed, bitter, defeated. Peace. That's rich coming from you. But as the guards led her away, Ashley thought she saw tears on her stepsister's face. The journey back to the